In this video today, we're going to talk about a fascinating topic that you may not have heard before in the past. Now, the reason for this video is really based on a theory, the genetic theory. Now, traditional doctors in our healthcare system are telling you as a parent that the child's health is due to genetic codes, that the DNA is the causative factor of why they're having health challenges. Now, whether your child has autism, ADHD, obesity, epilepsy, these are all factors that doctors today are blaming on genetics. Now, we don't have to tell you that as a parent, you don't have these challenges, so it's a little bit hard to assume that your child will have them some sporadic way, but we're going to dive in deep to the study of epigenetics. Now, epigenetics is the research focused on how behaviors and environment can change how genes are turned on or off. Now, if we dissect this definition, behaviors can be physical, chemical, or emotional. These stressors can happen at any time in life. And what's really important is how research has shown how fragile children's bodies are to external stress. So when you understand this idea that is being pronounced in our society, you have to then be able to understand, are you going to take a stance and make change? Or are you going to chalk up and identify with this health outcome of where your child is sitting? Now, epigenetics is something that focuses on the environmental stressors, how choices in the life can actually turn on or deactivate the genetic code. Now, your DNA is not the only cause of your health challenge. It may play a part in this, but it's up to your lifestyle and the choices that you make that can either speed up, stop, or reverse that health challenge. Now, so many people in today's society are being told that if you have high blood pressure, it's due to genetics, so take a medication. If your child has autism, it's due to genetics, take a medication. This theory tells you as a parent or as an adult that you have no control over your health, and that's anything but true. We're going to start with a research article by Harvard University that was performed in 2010. Now, this research article shows that 90% of brain development is reached by age 5. So if you think about how much trauma can be placed into a child's body, whether that trauma is emotional stress during pregnancy, whether it's physical stress during the birth experience, or whether it's chemical stress with medications or toxins placed into their body. So many children are having challenges in their health early on, and it's being pronounced as they age. Now, the brain is highly responsive to experiences as they develop. So if 90% of brain function is happening so early in life, it's so important to understand what these stressors are. Now, brain plasticity in this research article also showed that it's highest at age birth, which means that the brain is very susceptible to external stress when the child is born, and that adaptability or plasticity only reduces with time. So what this shows is that the body is very fragile at a young age, and the first few years of life are the most crucial for establishing a healthy foundation. Now, when you understand this, you first have to look into the epigenetic definition. Now, this is where your child's DNA is not controlled solely by their genes. You have the opportunity to turn on or off, to activate or deactivate these expressions by choices that you make in life. Now, the environmental factors and expressions can suppress genes without changing the DNA sequence itself. This is an example of two twins. Let's say we have two twins born from the same mother at the same time, right? Now, if both of those twins are separated and one twin is living a life of health, right? Mom is raising this child on breast milk. Mom is not placing medications into the body unless a crisis occurs. Mom is loving to this child. They're born into an environment where health and love is pronounced in the household. You look at that child's health outcome versus you take the other child and you give them every opportunity for medication and intervention. You raise them in a home with no love, no compassion. You feed them horrible food, you're giving them fast food, all these different things. And of course, the outcome for these children, you both know, will be different. Yes, there may be some similarities, but the focus is that there are environmental stressors that can change the outcome of these children. Now, this is exactly why you'll see a lot of twins whose health is not the exact same. Now, this is due to the stress that is placed on the body. Now, you have to understand that as a neurologically focused chiropractor, we have a term for the perfect storm. Now, the perfect storm is how environmental stressors can affect one's health. So when we look at high stress pregnancies and fertility challenges, this starts off with stress that affects the developing fetus. Now, stress can be happening to mom on a physical, chemical, or emotional factor, meaning that if you have emotional distress during your pregnancy, it's going to affect the outcome. If there's chemical exposures, we're fully aware that this also will affect the development of that fetus. And when we look at physical traumas, slips and falls, auto accidents, injuries, we all know that this can also affect the baby. Now we look at then birth interventions, things like cesarean section, forceps, or vacuum extractions. These are items that are very forceful to the delicate child that is being born. Now when we look at these, this will absolutely affect how the nervous system's performing. And the nervous system's so important because that's how the brain and body intercommunicate. That's how the body is able to perform and function. Every organ, muscle, and tissue is controlled by the nervous system. Now, when we look at the early exposure then to antibiotics or environmental toxins, so many children are placed on medications at an early age. And we never look at the outcome of how that can affect the development of their body. We also look at nutrition. Now, nutrition is something that we look at formula, look at the ingredients that are inside these typical things that people are using. We look at how they're raised with what we feed our children, and these are things that we all know. If you take a child and give them nothing but soda and fast food, they're going to be obese. Now we take this down a notch and we look at all the poor foods that are being given to kids in this society, all the different ingredients, all the different chemicals. These are things that it will have an effect. Now, in these areas, the perfect storm, each and every one of these attributes will affect the development, and it will trigger epigenetic change in your child's development. Now, the nervous system is so important because it's really what controls the body's function. Early life stress, physical, chemical, and emotional, can create what we call a subluxation. This is a neurological change that dampens the brain's ability to communicate to the organ systems in the body. It creates dysregulation in how the body performs. Now, dysautonomia is an imbalance in the neurological function and expression. When you have dysautonomia, then it will contribute to the formation of things like anxiety, stress, seizures, autism. These are all factors that build on one another. Now, the vagus nerve that is going to be affected through this trauma is also areas that regulate digestion, emotional well-being. This compromise to this nerve, which is in the upper neck, will contribute to distress in the body. Now, when we look at other factors, obesity, for instance, dietary habits will change the epigenetic outcome of your metabolism. So for instance, if a child is fed unhealthy food, it will affect their metabolism as they age into an adult. These are huge because if you focus on nutrition, you can reverse these challenges before your child gets sick. And if your child's already sick, you can make these changes. Asthma and allergies. These are things that are so common in our society that they're really deemed to be normal, meaning that the majority of children have breathing challenges. They have allergies to organic material in our environment. Now, these are things that pollutants, tobacco smoke, we're all aware that those can contribute to triggers. However, what we're not looking at is that allergies and asthma. They're an autoimmune expression, meaning that the body is attacking itself from within. When the body cannot adapt to its environment, you start to then observe challenges like asthma and allergies. But again, this is within your control to reverse these concerns without just being dependent on medications. Now, when we look at behavioral or neurodevelopmental disorders, these are plaguing our society at an all-time high. Now, these are things that maternal stress is one major precursor, along with early childhood trauma. Now, you have to stop ignoring birth trauma as a trauma. If your child is having a surgery for their birth, meaning cesarean section, or they're using external force with vacuum extraction or forceps, or what they're doing is giving you medication to start a pregnancy like an epidural or Pitocin. These are things that will exacerbate pre-existing challenges and start this perfect storm to start with. Now, these are changes that also can contribute to overactivity like ADHD, or overactivity with epilepsy, where the brain and body just cannot perform properly, so it shuts down. These epigenetic modifications will absolutely affect how neurotransmitters are set up for your child's brain development. Now, to close this out, if your child has a health challenge, or you're looking to be proactive on your child's health to more of a wellness platform, take a look at neurologically focused chiropractic care. In my office, we focus first on measuring how the nervous system's performing with technology called the Insight scans. These scans focus on how the nervous system's performing and where stress resides. We sit down and listen to you as a parent to understand what's contributed to this distress. Look at our bio below, take a look at the articles that are posted below, and we look forward to teaching you more about this helpful information.